Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mare Baltic Gaming and Tech Summit, the Vilnius edition. You have been awesome to joining us throughout 8 years now since we've been hosting this conference, and now we have 2 stages, as you can see. This is one is dedicated for mostly the tech talks, and the compliance talks are in the other room. I have some news to share with you, but first make sure to memorize this. Tonight we're hosting the awards, which is like 10 minutes, don't worry about that. But we are hosting the evening social gathering, drinks and snacks are on us, and we also have a live music band, a private concert dedicated for us at Jazz Cellar 11. Yeah, but I was telling you about this news that you are going to hear first because I have to do an introduction in the other room as well. Next year we are going to change the format for Mare Balticum. We are going to launch 3 conferences, regional conferences. So basically you will have one for Vilnius, one for Riga, and one for Tallinn. They're also going to, of course, allow you to join any of them, but we will focus more on regionals. So you're hearing this first, with the press release is not out yet. So I will not take further time away from you because you guys have so many panels here. The first session will be moderated by Stanislav Solom from Astral Forest. Stanislav, the floor is yours. Unfortunately, we only have 1 microphone for the speakers to share. Hopefully the hotel will give us more because they weren't prepared. Thank you so much and enjoy your time today.
Thank you so much for this. I think that anyway we'll manage even with 1 microphone. So guys, today we'll be discussing whatever goes beyond the hype and the nice buzzwords related to AI and blockchain. May I please welcome on stage my guest, Konstantinas from Finrax. And let me hold the mic as you'll be talking also. Arnis from RootXP. We also have Evaldas from speculative, and Merit from Regulatory Compliance Risk Consulting. So guys, since I mentioned at the beginning, today we go beyond the hype. And I'm very curious about your opinions because AI and blockchain, this is something that, at least for AI, it exists since the 50s. Maybe under different names, maybe before it was run not on computers, but on the cipher devices, yeah? And my question is, what do you think has changed that in the last 2 years, suddenly there was this huge surge in demand and people started discussing and asking questions when we are discussing actually technologies that existed for years, both AI and blockchain. Konstantinas, what's your take on this?
Yes, I will talk about it from the classical perspective. And I don't know if you're familiar with Gartner hype cycles, actually, but I prepared a diagram. It looks like this.
Efficient.
So basically, here, in the beginning, they call and basically Gartner they have explanation for the hype almost for every technology. They're presenting it every year since I don't know whatever, and also both AI and blockchain are explained, and yeah, so they explain why this is happening. So basically, on the X, let's say, line, there is a time, and on Y, it's expectations. And when the technology is being born, they call it innovation trigger. And actually, it may take a bit of time since it will be developed. For instance, for artificial intelligence, as you said, it was born already ago. And if to look into the papers, let's say, on the development of this technology, it was obvious that it was producing not very good results when the computer power was not enough and there was not enough data. But since we came to the situation when we have enough computer power to process enormous amounts of data. Technology became working more and more and more until, let's say, kind of OpenAI launched its first product, and it was more or less successful. And you saw that over the years, it was more and more and more productive. What was happening, actually, they were feeding more and more and more data, and were able to produce better results, actually. And that's here we come to the Gartner hype cycle. It's on the top, but everyone is talking about it, actually. But what is happening? And according to the Gartner, for instance, for AI, this peak of expectation was in 2024. Unfortunately, they didn't produce new report. It was from the last year, but from the last year, they were explaining that in 2025 till 2027, we will live in, let's say, disillusionment. So basically, there are a lot of struggles. And for instance, let's take, very recently there was information about Klarna. Klarna, I don't know if you have heard about it. It's a buy now, pay later provider, and they were talking a lot about it, about how they implement agents into their workflow. They did it. They removed 700 of personal employed agents, and what happened? The valuation dropped by 40 billion, actually, very recently. Because now everyone is talking about hallucinations and other stuffs about AI. I will not develop it now, but maybe later. And then after a period of time, there's like a slope of enlightenment, and finally plateau of productivity. So basically for AI, it seems like, according to the reports, in 2030s, we'll be able to expect something like of real use cases, real normal use cases of this technology. But for instance, comparing to blockchain, hype cycle was in 2017. And currently now, we are at the plateau of productivity already, so the first use cases being appearing. So yeah, it just depends. A little bit of time needed, but there should be subjective reasons why it is happening. And you can look, if you want, any other technologies.
So actually, do you believe that we are at the real top of that expectation diagram, or we just after?
Now we are moving. Now we are moving a little bit down.
Okay.
Already.
So
the hype is the expectations. Everyone is talking, but please show me real working examples without the fails. Actually, we'll talk a bit later about it. But technology is there. The data is there. It's improving every day, let's say so. Still, a lot of news and people talking about it, but without, let's say, very good real usage. People actually, and companies, a bit confused actually. So, and you'll see that in the forthcoming years, of course, this may change, but we are not still there, actually.
Okay, so if I may ask Arnis, what is your take on this, especially that you're looking more from a blockchain perspective?
Yeah, regarding the AI, I wanted to add that what has changed in the recent years is the availability. Before the LLMs like ChatGPT, the AI was still present in like a lot of systems, but back then it took a lot of time to actually train those models, and it took even more time for some of them to train them. And currently, nowadays, the tools like ChatGPT actually allows users to use their pre-built AI agents as well, which are pre-trained, so you don't have to deal with that, and you can use them straight away. And in some cases, you can even train them even more on your code base as well. So yeah. And regarding the blockchain, I don't like to admit it, but I think the meme coins also has something to do with it because, yeah, maybe it's not the best publicity, but it still allows a lot of users to actually onboard on the blockchain systems as well. And besides that, a lot of systems actually incorporate blockchain solutions already. And for instance, games where you can actually earn something and own it, I don't know, in-game inventory or character in the game. And later on, if you decide to stop playing, you can actually sell your progress in the game as well and earn something from it.
Something that we didn't see before.
Yeah.
And about us, because we want to speak about application and real life cases when it comes to finance and streamlining cross-border finance. Where do you see this application and the benefits? Who will benefit the most? What are those use cases? Can you please elaborate on this?
Thanks for the question. So we started the discussion from AI perspective, and that this technology has been quite there for 50 years or more. Blockchain has been here for almost 20 years. As Dennis already mentioned, that AI now, even though in my circle I still see that this is on the very hype innovation, and there's lots of new things being introduced and new models and everything. It's hard to even keep up. But the blockchain, I think, at the moment is already beyond the hype. We already see some of a real world applications. So since this is 2025, I will not give my introduction, which I was giving in 2018, explaining what the blockchain is, how this is working, and etc. But the proof that it's beyond the hype is like seeing really major players like Visa already, using this technology to settle cross-border payments. And the main benefit, as the second part of the question is, of this technology, for me at least, is the availability and the speed that the blockchain transactions allow you for the cross-border payments. So, you can, once again, not to repeat what I've been saying in 2018 to 2020 or 2018, it allows you, to make payments from one point in the world to another in seconds and at a fraction of a cost that the SWIFT might be, you might be paying for the SWIFT. And the speed, we have this law in the business that usually speed is expensive. If you want something to be delivered in the short term, you need to pay extra, whether it's a product development, whether it's a VIP customer service office, etc. But interestingly enough, with the blockchain, it's vice versa actually. That it doesn't really increase your price, even though it's giving you this huge speed. And it's also echoes with the AI technology, because it also gives you supercharged productivity and the speed just for the fraction of the cost. So those two technologies in this regard are really, I would say, brother and sister. Yeah. But also it's interesting part of this technology is security and transparency. When I mentioned security in those conferences, usually get people thinking about these huge crypto hacks happening, and what the hell are you talking about? Crypto and security, those doesn't go hand in hand. But if we are not thinking about just centralized cryptocurrency exchanges and their malicious practices and key management, and only focusing on the security of on-chain transactions, then you really see that these transactions are high on security and especially high on transparency. And what we see from the businesses that they also like this, and they trust in the payments more when they can see transaction processing in real time. And you can open whatever blockchain explorer you are using, it will give you a real-time data on your transaction being processed. So no more lying that, I made the payment, sure, it's stuck on the bank side, etc. You can see those transactions in real time. Of course, there is still processing if you are on-ramping or auto-converting or processing most of your transactions, via crypto payment providers, etc. And rolling back to the cost and efficiency for maybe some high-risk industries such as gambling and gaming, cross-border settlement in stable coins might be very similar to SWIFT transactions. Like you will see provider charging from 0.3% up to 1% or even more sometimes. So in SWIFT regards, you might be saving something, just a little bit. In some cases, like in stable coins, it might be cheaper with the crypto transactions, but you will have a speed of SEPA instant-like transactions, which is, of course, we take a benefit here in Europe. But if you are thinking about cross-border transactions, that's never the case. And like I remember being working in a operations specialist in AML like 6 years ago. And I remember when SWIFT was taking like at least 3 business days, up to 5 business days, etc. Now it's faster, sometimes 1 business day up to 2 business days. But when you are comparing with Ripple Ledger or Solana transactions, those are taking like a few seconds. I would say SEPA Instant is sometimes faster than Solana even, but when we are thinking about cross-border settlement, those few seconds, it's taking 4 or 5 or 6 seconds, doesn't really matter. So this is the benefits that I would like to mention.
Okay. Just a small comment. I have another graph. So this is Vitalik Buterin trilemma in blockchain. And according to him, you can have at once only either blockchain can be secure, scalable, or diversified. So basically, only 2 are available. So when we are talking, let's say, about Solana, it basically mostly in one organization hands. So it can be fast, scalable, but not secure actually, because it's not diversified. Talking about, let's say, Bitcoin, so it's diversified, very secure, but not scalable. So it depends. You have to understand the blockchain and its underlying technology and who's controlling actually. Because if it's in one hands, more or less, then the question of security is questionable.
But once again, rolling back to the transparency of the blockchain, and if we are comparing these apples and oranges and just focusing on the aspect, not comparing one blockchain with another, but comparing, for example, blockchain alternatives to SWIFT, there's definitely more arguments to use blockchain technology. What can you say about SWIFT security and in what hands the SWIFT is? And when you can be disconnected from that payment channel, etc. So for your business continuity, etc. So if we are comparing apples to apples, then yeah, some blockchains have this dilemma that not all the corners can be fully filled. But if we are thinking about alternatives to SWIFT and the cross-border payments, then blockchain I see definitely more benefits.
So this is one aspect, is finance, another is the digital identity, data exchange and security, and Arnis, I know you're an expert in this area. What do you think?
Yeah, there's actually been a significant progress in using blockchain technology, and there exists already multiple tools that actually allow you to create a secure digital identity. And in Europe we have EBSI, which stands for European Blockchain Services Infrastructure, which are leveraging blockchain solutions to create secure infrastructure for public sector across Europe. And besides that, a lot of universities across the world are actually issuing diplomas on the blockchain as well. But don't get me wrong, they're not actually sending the diplomas themselves on the chain. They're sending the fingerprints of the documents on the chain, so everyone can actually verify the validity of any diploma issued by that university. And also in Estonia, the national healthcare system uses blockchain systems to secure more than 1 million patients' data. And the blockchain is used to actually control who and when can access certain patients' data. Yeah, there's multiple cases, like I also mentioned, the payment systems use the blockchain technology, whether they have their own blockchain or they use existing chains like Bitcoin, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other public chains. And the thing about the chains is that you can always add data to the blockchain, but you cannot really change it or delete it. So it gives you the power to actually view the full history of how the transaction actually went through the chain. And this is ideal for supply chains, and a lot of big brands like Walmart or Nestle actually use the blockchain technology for their product shipment tracking. They can see how the produce actually went from the farm to the market, and they can see every transaction which is happening on chain when the product is actually moving. And if something is found in some products, they can quickly check where the product came from and actually deal with those issues.
Okay.
But I had one more thing.
Please go ahead.
I mentioned the blockchains, but there's an additional aspect, the smart contracts that I didn't talk about, which allows you to actually use additional custom business logic on the blockchain as well. You can create smart contracts. Let's say you have a store somewhere and you would like to create a loyalty system. You can use the blockchain technology to create it. And the same goes for financial systems or custom business logic. And in Latvia we have Air Baltic, which actually has the loyalty system planes, which are basically NFTs with their custom smart contract that allow to earn points on the chain as well and spend them on the flights.
So, Merit, I'm curious about your view from a compliance perspective, because we are all operating in a legal framework, and how does that really come into the picture and impact and shape the territory in which, territory, it's like, not literally speaking, but the ways of working that are actually applicable.
Yes, thank you for the question. And yes, I'm totally different than you guys. You are totally like technical IT CTOs or something, and I'm compliance. So also just as a background, I've been compliance in CASPs or VASPs, also gambling, also payment institutions, etc. So I have that overview of different kind of institutions or environmental places. So what I would like to point out, what you also mentioned, like different kind of environments, like financial institutions, banking, also GASPs, also gambling. So what I would like to point out is that AI is now, we do understand AI is coming to different environments which are strictly strictly regulated entities. And what it means, that also what Evaldas mentioned, that transparency, actually I do agree with it, because the AI from compliance point of view has to be transparent, human reviewed. There has to be also some additional person who is reviewing AI decisions. Also, it has to be tested, it has to be fair, it has to be understandable. And what it means that I also, we were speaking before the panel, that what I'm thinking, like what AI is from regulatory point of view, is that first level of defense, like from audit point of view, or like, this is like audit model usually. First level defense is like daily operations. Then comes like second line of defense, and then third line of defense. And what I see AI decisions from regulatory point of view, in my eyes, is that AI decisions are like the first line defense. Then comes human review, and also then like auditing or something about the entity. So also what we have now is that we have like very spoken about AI Act. So what it means is also AI Act also mentioned that it has to be tested, there has to be like human review afterwards, you have to understand it, and all decisions has to be documented. So basically, from regulatory point of view, what also was mentioned earlier, that if you don't have one scale or what you mentioned before, or like you don't have, I don't remember, what was it, sorry. So I do not agree from compliance point of view. So you have to mitigate risks. So this is the point. And yeah, so I don't know. Yes, I guess that's all at this point.
Especially, I think it stopped working for some reason.
Then you can take it. My voice is strong anyway.
I think we can charge the button.
Uh,
But I'm thinking about one more aspect here because you want to explain everything. Let's say there's someone who's going to perform the review, the audit, but at the same time, if you take a look, for example, at machine learning models, many times it's a black box by nature. And especially if someone who's reviewing and does not have statistical background, maybe, I don't know, major or PhD in statistics, I struggle to see how they're going to understand what's behind the algorithm, but this might apply to any other technical specialization as well.
I can comment it. Actually, that's also sorry. That's also a good point because okay, when person don't know what to do with the data, here comes into play training from compliance point of view again. You have to, like all employees, has to be trained. And what if the person don't know what the data means at all? How to compile the pattern, for example. Let's imagine the data is outdated, the data is incomplete, etc. So this is also related with training. So people has to be, there is obligation to be trained at least once in a year or when comes the regulation into force, etc. Or the business model changes, or even, I would say that what I also have said, because today I'm also expert for auditors, how to audit CASPs. So basically what I've seen is that many CASPs, they don't even train their people, let's imagine that, or they don't even evaluate these AI systems. And this is the new regulation, like the requirement. You have to evaluate from the day one. So this is related with the training question.
Okay, let's pass the mic to Evaldas actually, because we have diverted from blockchain into AI, but I think we didn't underline enough what are the typical use cases when it comes to productivity, speed of delivery. How does it get really applied in order to make the business accelerate?
So yeah, whatever repetitive task you have, I think that there's nothing new that I will explain here. If you have a repetitive task, it's better to run with AI or AI agents and make those automated decisions, whether it's content creation, code review with code copilots. These are the things that have been circulating in our organization quite oftenly in the recent times. Klarna has been mentioned here about their solution. I think that they went a little bit too crazy with AI automation, thinking that they will not need all of those customer support specialists, that they can just go simply with chatbots and those will solve everything. Even though I know that they are now once again hiring customer supports because that project failed. But I've seen data from them that chatbots been able to solve up to 70% or something like that of the customer inquiries. So this is a huge improvement in productivity and in cost efficiency of your business. Even though we are now sure, and Klarna's example gives us evidence that chatbots will not solve all real-world cases with your customers, and some customers just prefer human touch. Either the case is just too complex, maybe it depends on the business, you don't want to give the AI agent the back office access, that agent cannot then issue a chargeback or something, whatever the case that would be. But some customers just prefer to speak with a human and human-minded person, and they are not very open to disclose details when they know that they are chatting with Fin chatbot or something like that, or Klarna AI, and they definitely see that this is AI bot in those cases. In our organization, we now see a huge potential with AI agents, and our now I would say, future goal is that we will be utilizing AI agents for very specific roles, and each specialist will be trained to code or just build the AI agent for their specific task. This gives a huge improvement, supercharge of the productivity in the organization. Once again, maybe on less complex tasks, but more repetitive, even if that's sales job or just email filtering. Every minute that the AI can save you gives you more time to perform your direct roles and not to make any of those supportive repetitive tasks. Anything on compliance, I would say, not maybe on compliance per se on legal documents, but on AI detection and pattern detection. I think that AI has a superiority here. Whenever you have platform which has tens of thousands of customers, then it becomes difficult for you to see the big picture of your customers' transactions and the patterns for the malicious act, whether it would be money moves or something like that. Once you have tens of thousands of customers, you need sometimes up to 100 AML specialists, and for those all working on their areas, it might be very difficult to see the big picture, what's actually happening on the platform. While with AI, if you can access that data, it's super easy for them, to track all those geolocation, user pattern, etc., and identify malicious patterns and consolidate those user groups into one case. Then, of course, you need a human touch, and then the specialist can investigate those cases on their own. But at least on the detection, AI is superior for that. So, this gives, at least in our organization, a huge superiority and productivity. And I've seen, I will not mention this right now, but I've seen some of the very good startups actually in Lithuania, co-founded by Lithuanians, but operating in USA, who've been quite substantially making some progress on AI chatbots once again, but not for the customer interaction and customer inquiry solving, but actually chatting with scammers and receiving those crypto addresses to make payments, then bashing all those crypto addresses and parsing that as a fraud data to the CASPs. Once you can in real time see addresses being used for scams, while for blockchain analytics tools such as Chainalysis, for example, it may take a few days for them to verify that was SYN data, and you will not have this real-time experience on stopping all those fraudulent activities. On retrospective scale, of course, the clusterization of the data, everything works. You can solve those cases retrospectively, but usually the money is already gone at that point. But with those AI bots, chatting with fraudsters, I think that like 50% of us here definitely been contacted on Telegram to make some task for 20 USDT, and here is the address you can receive funds, etc. So these are, my point of improvements.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And when it comes to challenges and best practices to repeat and worst practices to forget, Anis, what would you say?
Yeah, I actually want to split the question in like two separate parts. One regarding the AI and the second related to the blockchain itself. And regarding the AI, I myself as a technical person, I work with the code a lot, and actually introducing AI comes with a lot of risks associated with it, because the applications that we built, whether they be financial systems or other systems, they can contain secure data like user credentials, maybe not, but credentials for other systems that we use, or I don't know, email addresses or any other information that should be kept safe. And one wrong AI tool selection can actually expose all of that information. And I had a chat with one developer a while ago, and he told me about the system that he built over the weekend. And when I asked him, how does it work? He answered, I don't know, AI wrote it. And to be honest, as a business owner, it scares me a lot, because we have compliance regulations to follow, and yeah, you wouldn't really like such system working with real users' money.
Passwords exposed, yeah.
Well, not really passwords, but yeah, how the like the company functions or any critical information related to that. And there's a lot of applications out there that were built by vibe coding, and they actually expose some sort of credentials to AI tools, and owners get billed for thousands of dollars just because of the API that got leaked, and everyone was using the AI at no cost on the expense of the owner. And yeah, the second part of the question related to blockchain, from time over and over again with companies that I work with, I understand that not a lot of clients actually understand the full capabilities of the blockchain that it brings and the limitations that it comes to. And one thing to mention is that if you're building a product, you must understand what your product is and what the code base, like what your user base is using, like what chains, if they're Web3 specific users. Because if you're planning to make a lot of transactions, maybe Ethereum chain is not the right one for you, because there's high transactional cost associated with each transaction. There are cheaper chains out there. And yeah.
Perfect. And Merit, do you see any other risks that go beyond the security aspects?
Yeah, well, as mentioned also by Evaldas, also what are the pros, let's say that, and also cons that you mentioned. So what I would like to point out is entities that are using AI, they have to understand, can we trust the system? That is the first question. The second question is, do we understand how it's done? So now I'm getting to the example, is that let's imagine that AI makes decision, like you all Evaldas mentioned, okay, some kind of malicious or like AML case has been discovered, but what if the customer has been declined with no reason, for example, or some pattern or like some decision is made, or like how to say, some threat is not even seen through. So that is also the main risk, what I think. And yeah, just I will come back to the topic that we have to understand, like your, like, I don't know, was it friend or like coworker or whatever, like who built the system within 1 weekend.
Luckily it wasn't mine system.
Okay, but the point is that we have to understand how does it work, and that is my final words. Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I can comment on this, and unfortunately we cannot. So, and I will try to explain very briefly why there was a need actually of this AI Act, and why European Union is so cautious about it. Basically, of course, the main part of it, this legislation initiative, is speaking about the creation of AI models. Of course, the second part is also talking about the obligations of entities, how they need to act and what they need to apply from a compliance point of view if they want to use those models. So, yeah, but why? First of all AIs currently being trained on vast majority of data, whatever data. And they become more powerful. As I mentioned in the very beginning, the more like computer data there is, and how many, let's say, parameters can be extracted from the data. By the way, AI models, they store all their data and similarities and everything in so-called vector databases. For us, we all know only 3 dimensions, but in their reality, it's thousands of dimensions actually in vectors. And basically, what they are doing, they just, to say simple, it's not a joke. They're just predicting the next word. That's what they do. But they so many actually patterns. They so vast amount of knowledge, so that they're able to produce texts or whatever. And if you are not familiar with prompt engineering, you may fail actually extremely, because unless you say very specifically and frame the model, it will always produce the answer. And if it doesn't know information, it will create it. So that's why. And so yeah, they're not thinking, they don't have emotions. It's just a program which is based on the patterns they're trained. Actually, they fine-tuned with human reinforced training, and then they produced to the life. But think about this. For instance, you use AI for coding, yes? But it's trained on a code of previous coders with mistakes, actually. It trained on a data from Facebook with the fake news. Even more, you don't even can't imagine how many current materials, including papers, let's say, and also just ordinary material being produced currently instead of humans which do it, and then models are being trained on the same new produced materials by the machines, actually. So this is inflation of information when you train yourself on information which was fake, which was produced in the fake news. So basically, that's why AI is always it can be assistant, it can be helper of yours if you're just using it as an ordinary user. You have to be trained for prompt engineering, so just try to learn basics. Without this, I don't know if it's even possible to trust the results. Of course, in the areas where creativity is needed, of course, this is not crucial, and you even can, if you use it through API or in the playgrounds, you can increase the temperature and it will become even more creative, actually. Even more hallucinations will appear. But when we are talking about critical areas, such as medicine, law, I don't know, some other specifics, where, let's say, reliability is like not 95%, but 99.99, then it's actually very crucial to review the outcomes of those models. Anyway, there was a funny example how models were trained for the detection of the cancer or like a tumor in the brain. And anyway, in every there could be anomalies anyway. And then there's a question how the model will treat this anomaly. For the sake of fun, scientists put in the MRT scanner dead fish. It was scanned, and the scanner showed a cancer in the dead fish brain, actually. But it was just an outlier. So and there's a question, if this model is able to distinguish outliers, non-significant things from significant. For this, you have to specifically train them with human reinforced training. And if you, what would happen if actually in real life they would say that this is a cancer, if it's not. So what I'm pointing out is that it can be a helper, but then there was a question, who is the first, human or AI? So human in any way, so as you said, like only first level, but it should be always rechecked. You don't have to blindly, but on the other hand, yeah, there are good examples. For instance, Stripe, very recently, on the vast amount of the data they have, they trained the model, transformative model on the language of payments. Actually, they just inputted all the information they had, and so this model was not able to communicate in the text, let's say, model, but it went to a model of payments, and it helped them to reduce fraud by almost from, let's say, 60 to 90 whatever percent, because it's able to spot let's say, patterns. Yeah, so it's not just as obvious. There are good examples, but still you have to be very, very cautious. And yeah.
And that's a very nice quote to end today's discussion. Sorry, I know that we're only warming up, but I see Zoltan for a couple of minutes already waving his hand, so I have to interrupt. I'm sorry for this, but thanks a lot for your attention, and thanks to our guests for the active participation. Please give them a warm welcome.